there's a bushfire raging outside my house, and there's a bushfire raging inside my life. Deep burning anger has come into my heart. I decide not to break things, cause I've done that before and it doesn't work. Well, there's a bushfire burning inside my heart. I don't know where to go, but I just make a start. Sit down, da-dun-da, da-dun-da, well, I sit down. Well, there's a deep, 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 deep desire in me. I'm stuck in a shell, but I want to be free. And I got that weird old funny feeling again. Oh, I feel like a bush, but I'm a burning man. Said, burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. I see a fire burning down the mountain. Come on in, you got to sit and you got to see the smoke up rising. Do what you do, don't be afraid to get through. Cause if you're sitting on the beach, you know you're safe and you might just be fire touching water, taking over the sound. And everybody wanna get up to the higher ground. But don't you see you smiling at me and don't get upset. Without the fire, nothing goes, so don't you get it wet. I said, burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. 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 Well, there's a bushfire burning in the USA, and there's a bushfire burning in the world today. There's a bushfire burning in the hearts of men. Well, I don't know where it started, but I sure know where it's gonna end. It's gonna go down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. It's gonna go down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground, down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground, down to the ground. Another one 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 down to the ground. Another one. Who lit the fire and the who lit the fire and the who lit this fire and the who lit the fire. bushfire raging outside my house. And there's a bushfire raging inside my life. Deep burning anger has come into my heart. I decide not to break things, cause I've done that before and it doesn't work. Well, there's a bushfire burning inside my heart. I don't know where to go, but I just make a start. Sit down, well, I sit down. Well, there's a deep, 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 deep desire in me. I'm stuck in a shell, but I want to be free. And I got that weird old funny feeling again. Oh, I feel like a bush, but I'm a burning man. Said, burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. I see a fire burning down the mountain. Come on in, you got to sit and you got to see the smoke up rising. Do what you do, don't be afraid to get through. Cause if you're sitting on the beach, you know you're safe and you might just be fire touching water, taking over the sound. And everybody wanna get up to the higher ground. But don't you see they're smiling at me and don't get upset. Without the fire, nothing goes, so don't you get it wet. I said, burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. 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 Well, there's a bushfire burning in the USA. And there's a bushfire burning in the world today. There's a bushfire burning in the hearts of men. Well, I don't know where it started, but I sure know where it's gonna end. It's gonna go down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. It's gonna go down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground, down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground, down to the ground. Another one 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 down to the ground. Another one. Who lit the fire and the who lit the fire and the who lit this fire and the who lit the fire. there's a bushfire raging outside my house. And there's a bushfire raging inside my life. Deep burning anger has come into my heart. I decide not to break things, cause I've done that before and it doesn't work. Well, there's a bushfire burning inside my heart. I don't know where to go, but I just make a start. Sit down, da-dun-da, da-dun-da, well, I sit down. Well, there's a deep, 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 deep desire in me. I'm stuck in a shell, but I want to be free. And I got that weird old funny feeling again. Oh, I feel like a bush, but I'm a burning man. Said, burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. Another one. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the burn, burn, burn another one down. Burn, burn, burn another one down to the ground. I see a fire burning down the mountain. Come on in, you got to sit and you got to see the smoke up rising. Do what you do, don't be afraid to get through. Cause if you're sitting on the beach, you know you're safe and you might just be fire touching water, taking over the sound.
That's my motto. We use the glazing method that I'm using. We can use carrots. And to those of you at home, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the channel, our fourth episode. Welcome to those of you who have not been here before. We are the premier South African live streaming cooking channel. And we're right here in your kitchens and in your front rooms. And as usual, we have one of the top chefs in the country for you to cook along with. So we're looking forward to some great fun this evening. Tonight is a fantastic chef in his own right, a very successful entrepreneur and businessman. He is Mr. Restaurant in Stellenbosch. A very, very good mate of mine and someone who unfortunately don't see as much as I'd love to, but he will be joining or will be cooking along with you tonight. Please welcome Bertus Basson. Hey, Bertus. How are you, my man?
Little home kitchen in Stellenbosch.
Fantastic. Well, it's great to have you on board. I'm looking forward to a great evening this evening. And tonight has been brought to you by Retail Capital. Retail Capital provide flexible business financing and are devoted to partnering with SMEs to grow the South African economy. They are very proud to have partnered with over 28,000 businesses, providing more than 3 billion rand to the country.
We are the masters of our destiny. We are the dreamers of dreams and the builders of futures. We are the long hours, the long days, the long shot. We are the cold steel, the cold press, the cold hands. We are the small steps, the small victories, the small rewards. We are the hard work, the hard way, the hard luck. We are the tough times, the tough meetings, the tough decisions. We are the never say die attitude, the never give up, the never back down. We are the entrepreneurs of South Africa, the lifeblood of the economy, the future. And when we thrive, South Africa thrives. Retail Capital supports this vision. Through the highs and lows, the ups and downs, we are here for you. Retail Capital, your vision, our belief.
Great stuff. Okay, Bertus, back to you, my man. It's fantastic to have you in the kitchen. And he's gone walked out. Excellent. Okay, well, let me tell you, while Bertus gathers his thoughts, let me tell you a little bit about how it's going to work this evening. So for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, my name is Pete GOFFE-WOOD. As you can see on the screen, I am a lover of good food and wine whenever I can get my hands on it. But how our live cook channel actually works is this. You can go online and book to cook at web tickets where you will pay for your food box. And what will happen is you can either buy for 2 people or for 4 people. And on the appointed day, Daily Dish will deliver a magnificent box of goodies of locally sourced organic produce. And then on the appointed hour, namely this evening or 6 o'clock, you will click on the link and you will be able to cook alongside me and one of the top chefs in the country and cook along with their signature dish. The beauty of this is that those of you watching just via the YouTube link, you can watch along, but you don't get to tuck into the fabulous food that our viewers are going to produce alongside Bertus. And plus, there are some fantastic prizes to be won. We have an Instagram prize, plus we also have our fabulous lucky winner draw. So buy a ticket and you could win more than just a sumptuous meal. But of course, what we want about this evening is to keep this live streaming as interactive as possible. So please send us questions, send us comments, whatever you like. You can use the hashtag #LiveCookChannel if you're on Twitter, or if you're on YouTube, just on the comments section down the bottom there. Please type us whatever it is you'd like to know, whether it's about the particular recipe that Bertus is doing, or simply about Bertus himself, his restaurant empire, his farm of 1,000 animals, 2 dogs, 7 kids, and a parakeet that he keeps at home, or anything you'd love to know about what's going on in the culinary world. Feel free to ask us questions. Keep it as interactive as possible. Right, Bertus, it's great to have you back. As I said before, lockdown has been quite challenging, but I think you, probably more than most chefs, have really, and your team, been really quite proactive in the lockdown. What have you guys been up to?
Sure, Pete, it's been incredible. So we started off with a little soup kitchen at home. We then moved it to Acre, where we still cook soup now for about 240 liters a day. We opened up Spek and Win recently. We opened up Acre, the Vryburger, delivery services, boxes, you name it. So we've managed to bring a small team of people back to work. It's going actually quite well. I think if I speak to friends in the industry, we seem to be quite lucky and to be quite blessed with the amount of business we have. But it's been incredible. We've had a blast so far. So we are taking some shots, but we're quite optimistic that at the end of this we will actually be in a stronger, better place than what we were before.
Well, that is great news, because, as I say, it's fantastic that you're taking the initiative, particularly with the soup kitchen, and it is, putting staff first and foremost. Helping the people put some food on the table, and those of you who bought the tickets are going a long way to help supporting that. A lot of the money that gets raised and through your tickets and bits and pieces goes to the chefs and their various restaurants. So by buying a ticket, you are also doing your bit to help what is a stranded and certainly in terms of the government, an abandoned industry. But tonight's about some fun. We won't get into the politics of this tonight. We won't bore you to death with that. But we will cook. I'd just like to apologize. There was supposed to have been a fabulous bottle of juice in your boxes, but unfortunately, political times being and volatile times being there, the rioting on the N2 prevented from us getting samples locally and also to the airport to have distributed in Johannesburg. So we do apologize. We will make amends for that. But those of you found that your juice was left wanting, fortunately, it was a bonus ingredient and not a vital ingredient to tonight's dish. So we will be okay. So Bertus, tell us a little bit about what are we cooking tonight?
Sure. So, Pete, many people always ask us, so what do chefs eat and cook at home? And who cooks, me or my wife? Luckily, we both cook, so I'm pretty sorted. However, what we don't like to do at home is we don't want to struggle. We want delicious, flavorful food that doesn't take us all day to do. And the big difference between restaurant cooking and home cooking, of course, I think the biggest difference is that at restaurants, we usually have a team of people that washes the dishes for us. At home, we don't. So we use less pots and pans at home than what we would in the restaurants, which is actually quite cool. And it's just that's the way it goes. But it's simple, flavorful food that we can pick up from one supermarket, and that's it. So tonight's dish is a very fragrant coconut poached chicken, a little bit of jasmine rice, and we can talk about rice again later on. And rice is quite a serious thing, but I think many people get it wrong because they don't read the packet really. It's all you have to do with rice is read the packet and you get it right. A little cucumber, mint, pickle with cashew nuts and sesame. So little nods to Asian cooking, of course, and also slight nods to traditional South African food, but it is really cool stuff. So we are going to look forward to cooking this dish, man. It's really good.
I tell you what, perhaps it sounds mouthwatering, and I love it. I love the bit about the simplicity of cooking at home, and I'm exactly the same. I think a lot of people are very disappointed when they hear what chefs eat at home. They think we create these massive, elaborate dishes and multiple courses, and people go, "So what did you cook last night?" I said, "Well, I got home and I put a chicken in the oven and I made a salad." I mean, oh, is that it? I said, yeah. Roast chicken and a nice green salad is a beautiful combination. It's simple, provided it's a beautiful free-range chicken and cooked nicely. That there are a few better things. So take us through for those
for many chefs. Cheese.
Yeah, very true, very true. Right, so for those of you who are watching just through our YouTube channel, but not the box holders, by now those cooking along will have got their ingredients out, and so. For those of you who haven't got tickets or about to find out what you're missing, perhaps just take us through the ingredients we've got in our box.
Sure. So first up, there's jasmine rice, which is one of my favorites. So I'm a big basmati and jasmine fan. So jasmine rice is on the go. You should also just make sure you've got a kettle of boiling water ready for the rice when we start. We're going to kick off the base of the sauce with coconut. We're going to use a little bit of ginger, lemongrass, galangal, chili, and lime leaf all together. Really, really cool stuff. We're going to have some vegetables to add into curry later on. Green beans, some cauliflower. And then for the pickle, a bit of rice wine vinegar, a little bit of mint, spring onion, obviously the cucumber. And we're going to finish all of this with a little bit of, we're going to call it pewtered fish for now, if that's cool, but a little bit of fish sauce, fermented fish sauce, delicious salty tones, and a bit of lime, which is very important. And remember, lime is always different to lemon. Lime adds a lot of sort of tropical notes and tropical fruitiness to, and it's tropical acidity actually to dishes versus lemon. So we like cooking with lime as well. So if you've got all those things together, then we can rock and roll.
Oh, fantastic. And just tell me, any specialist cooking ingredient utensils we're going to need tonight?
Of course. So pots and pans, Pete. So we've got a sort of a medium-sized pot for rice, a slightly larger pot that you can see here for the coconut curry. One thing we would also ask you to pull out, please, is a small little pan. We're gonna toast some nuts and seeds later on, and if you've got those together, it's pretty cool. And that's what I love about cooking this particular recipe. There really is 2 pots, and you're sorted. It's not, it's not hectic dishes and those sort of things. And what I also love about one pot wonders like this is that all the flavor stays in one pot. We don't have sort of flavor losing flavors along the way in different pots and pans. It's one pot, one dish, everything stays in the pot, delicious food.
Fantastic, Bertus. So before we kick off with the actual cooking, we have another message for one of our avid supporters, Food Guru. And this is a little bit about their new food passport. Perhaps. Excellent. So, Baptist, I must admit, I'm salivating at the sound of the dish. I love those Asian ingredients, and I love the simplicity of putting them together properly. And I'm certain we're in for a stunning dish this evening. Of course, I'm going to sit here and eat a bowl full of nuts and drink my wine because again, I don't have any food prepared for me. Get my violin out just in case anyone is feeling sorry for me. I see we just got a quick question. Yeah, the smallest violin in the world. Before we kick off, just a quick question. What would you suggest for those of people out there lucky enough to still have some wine? What sort of wine would you pair with a dish like this?
Well, Pete, I'm going to have to just stretch over here and pull out something quite. This is what we're going to drink tonight. It's the FMC by Ken Forrester. I love Chenin Blanc, my favorite. I saw Ken earlier this week and we shared a bottle of his Rouzanne as well. What have you got? Carbs, one of my other favorites. Amazing.
It's not quite FMC, but it'll have to hit the spot this evening. Just a quick question before Any Stellenbosch Chenin will do the trick, yeah. A quick question: soy instead of fish sauce, is that a reasonable replacement if you don't have fish sauce?
It is. However, when you cook these sort of dishes, and you can see how this dish is very much inspired by Thai cooking, which is salty, sweet, sour, spicy, and you want that sort of that's very special ocean sea-like saline saltiness. It's very different to soy, and I don't know how else to describe sauce, but almost putrid in a way. But that putridness disappears when you cook with it. And it's a very special. So you could imagine different salty things. So salt is very different to aromatic, all the MSG, which we also love, which is very different to fish sauce, very different to soy. But soy is acceptable, but it won't be perfect. But if you had to do it because you're vegetarian or whatever the case might be, go for it.
Well, Baptist, without any further hold-ups, the evening is yours, dude. Please go mad, work your magic.
Wonderful. Well. Welcome. Thank you very much, everybody. So let's kick off with cooking rice. And I think the biggest issue with rice cooking is, unfortunately, that many people get it wrong. And if you ever wanted to just cook rice properly, just read the packet. And it's the same with couscous and bulgur wheat and all those sort of things. Many people think that, they don't have to read the packet, but they just get it wrong. So the oaks that wrote the packet, actually, they've tested the recipe many times over, and there we go. So in this case, we're doing jasmine rice. So we're going to cook for 4 tonight in our house. It's 2 cups of jasmine rice that we have here, and we're going to use 3 cups of water. So it's 1 part of rice to 1.5 part water. I've got the kettle boiled. I'm going to grab it quickly. And there we go. So my pan is on. As you can see here, a nice bit of heat under. You're going to start with 3 cups of hot water from the kettle. That's 1, 2, and 3. Great stuff. To the pan, we're going to add salt. So 2 teaspoons of salt. So 1 teaspoon per cup, pretty much. And we're going to cover that up just to come to a boil for a few seconds. And while that's happening, we're going to quickly talk about the chicken sirloin. So for tonight, we've chosen chicken breast. But what I've done is I've just put another board on top of my chopping board, and I'll use the top board for dicing chicken. So we can move it, and it's quite clean. And you don't have to worry about all the vegetables later on. So if you've got 2 chopping boards to put together, do that as well. As a good tip. And then obviously a nice sharp knife. Make sure you've got one on hand. If you don't have a sharp knife at the moment and you want to get one later on, my favorite brand of knives, and they don't pay me a cent, I promise you, is Global, because they're sort of available everywhere. I break lots of them, and they're an amazing brand to work with. So it's my favorite knife of all time. So let's have a look at the water. The water is pretty much there, almost there, and we're going to just give it another second. What I also have ready so long is a medium-sized pot, casserole. Now, our sponsors have been really cool. They've given us whole liters of coconut milk. We won't need all of it. 1 tin equals 400 mils or 400 grams. So what we're going to do is we're going to just leave 200 mils behind, and then tomorrow you can make a delicious coconut panna cotta or something different with the leftovers. But it's quite a good treat to have this much on hand. And we can open this up so long, because as soon as the rice goes in the pot, we're going to start with the curry. There we go. Super. There we go. Water's pretty much coming up. We're going to add the rice. We're going to take a fork, give it a good stir, or a spoon. We're going to cover up. And as soon as this comes to the boil, we're going to turn the heat down and we're going to cook it for roughly 18 minutes. So no straining, just that's it. So the secret here is bring it to the boil and a very slow simmer to get the cooking done at the end. Great stuff. We're going to just hang there for 2 seconds while everybody gets their rice going. And we're going to go 1, 2. And then later on tonight, you might see a bunch of things running through our home. We've got 4 dogs, 3 cats, 6 chickens, 1 pig, 1 child, which is like a monkey child. It will be around just now. And we also have, I've got 1 wife actually. And the wife is at sort of at the end of this whole lot. It just heard all of us in the right direction, to be honest with you. So you'll see the farm later on. Great stuff. So the rice is going. We're going to keep an eye on it and we're going to make sure it comes to a boil so we can turn the heat down at the right time. And while it's happening, I'm going to get the coconut sauce going. So now that sort of medium-sized casserole goes on, and we're going to whack it with our coconut.
Sorry to interrupt. Your preference for the jasmine rice, why would you use jasmine as basmati as opposed to just normal long grain?
So I love normal long grain rice, but jasmine and basmati are both very fragrant. So jasmine comes from Southeast Asia, it originated in Southeast Asia. And it sort of makes sense that they have this dish that's inspired by Asian cooking with jasmine and rice. But in our cupboard, and in my mind, I always love basmati with traditional Cape Malay food, so Cape Malay curries. And I love tastic with more Afrikaans cooking. So if I think of like a Sunday roast with rice flakes and aardappels, that rice and gravy has to be tastic. So I didn't grow up with basmati rice as a kid, but so I've got different rices in my head for different parts of the food that I love eating.
Makes perfect sense.
So our coconut goes in. Yeah, it's you know, and we're going to do almost the whole carton and leave behind about 200 mils. So there we go. We're going to make sure that we can control the heat on this quite well so that it doesn't boil too hard, but we're going to do an infusion. An infusion is quite a serious big word, but what it means is we're going to flavor this with a bunch of other flavors to make sure that like they all lend their flavor to this one thing. And we're going to start with this. This is a little bit of palm sugar. And this is great stuff. This will just dissolve in. If you've got 2 discs like that stuck together, take them apart. That's 2 discs, and we're going to pop that in. And that'll just dissolve in the cooking process. That's nothing too serious. That's the sweet part of our dish, by the way. When we open up the bag, we're going to come up with a bunch of other great ingredients. So the first one we're going to open up, and this is like a bag of flavor surprises. There's lemongrass. We've got lime leaf and galangal. And whenever we talk about galangal, which is this dry root over here, and you can look there, the rice has just come to the boil now. I'm going to just turn the heat a little bit slower, so a nice slow simmer. There we go. I'm going to give it another little, just a stir through. Lid back on. I'm going to leave it there for a few minutes. And when we talk about galangal, it's very often compared to ginger, but it really isn't. It's also a root, but it's got a much sweeter sort of scent to it, and it's delicious. So we just take the galangal, you can smell it. It's very, very different to ginger. We're going to break it into large chunks into the dish. The lime leaves, we're going to add whole. You can also tear them once if you would like to, but they'll lend their flavor to our magic infusion. Great stuff. We've got chilies, obviously, and chilies you've got to be careful with. You're cooking for your family tonight and you've got kids with you. Don't add all the chili, keep some aside, but I'm going to add everything. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use them whole, but I'm going to split them in half. And so skins on, seeds in, like that. And they'll lend the heat, and you can pull them out whole, but they won't sort of go too burny, to be honest with you. And these are really cool. So we're going to add a bit of chili. There we go. So that's for 4 people, that's 4 chilies split into half and just to infuse. And amazingly, the aromas are coming up already. I can smell the coconut milk. I can smell the lime leaf. It's smelling delicious. Now, this stuff is magical. This is lemongrass. We all know it. Hi, Pete.
Perhaps just a quick question for those not lucky enough to have the ingredients in front of them and fancy trying this. With the palm or coconut sugar, could you replace that with like the demerara or the treacle sugar if you didn't have the real McCoy?
You can, but just use a bit less. Demerara and caramel sugar is a lot sweeter than palm sugar, and it's obviously got a very different flavor. But if you're out in your cupboard, please reach in and grab a nice dark sugar. That'll help. That's cool.
Okay, we have a question.
With these guys, we're going to...
Sorry, we do have a question from Lada. It says only one palm sugar disc. No, use them both.
If you've got two, add two. Yeah. We're just going to... You can just peel the outer layer off the lemongrass like that. They're sometimes a little bit old and not so cool. And what we're going to do is we're going to simply just bruise this. So it is quite chewy. So if you do yourself a favor and take a small chunk of it and just smell it, but also bite it. It's flipping hard. So you don't want to have this in your curry where people sort of have to struggle through eating it. So all we're going to do is we're going to bruise it and then add it in. So we take the back of a knife like this and we just smash it. So all this frustrations about no booze, curfews, lockdowns, presidents, nonsense, just murder the lemongrass, get it out of your system, and then off we go. So just give it a proper smack. And that will really infuse all those flavors into this. Now you can see we've come to a boil already, and I'm going to turn it on to a very slow simmer. There we go. And we'll do the second stick as well. There we go. So in this pan at the moment, we've got the sweet and the spicy. We're going to add the sour and the salty last. Now for the ginger, we've got this wonderful little chunk of ginger. You should have a peeler ready, so if you've got a bit of skin on the ginger, just take it off. Here we go. And we can slice the ginger into nice thin slices with a sharp knife. And although galangal and ginger is very similar, they add very different flavors. Remember, ginger is also very good for digestion, so it's one of those healthy things you have to have from time to time. And it smells amazing. So here we go. While we're here, let's speak into the rice pot and see what's happening. And you can see our rice is slowly simmering away. There's two things happening. The rice kernels are soaking up water, and we're also losing water through evaporation. And we're probably about 5 or 6 minutes away from rice glory, to be honest with you. Great stuff.
A quick
Ginger's in the pan. And now,
sorry, quick question with your rice. Did you put any salt in the water that you put the rice in?
So like I said, the recipe for rice for this rice is very simple. It's 1 cup of rice, 1.5 cups of hot water. So it's 1 part of rice to 1.5 parts of hot water, and 1 teaspoon of salt to 1 cup. Great stuff. Let's look at our chicken. So beautiful fresh chicken breasts onto our chopping board.
No, Justin, you must only be left. Sorry, quick question from Justin. I'm going to answer myself. No, you only need to have 200 mils left. So you use up the carton you've got, leaving yourself just 200 mils afterwards.
And what we're going to do while this is infusing beautifully is we're just going to cut the chicken into nice large chunks like that. So we'll take a whole breast, strip it into 3. There we go. And then from there, turn it sideways, and we can slice it into 4 or 5.
If you were a bit of a leg man,
Now,
you also use the thigh meat instead of the breasts?
definitely, Pete. You know, I think I'm a great chicken man, to be honest with you. I really enjoy it, and I love all forms and shapes and sizes of chicken, to be honest with you. But deboned leg and thigh meat is great. It's just so much work. You can go to supermarkets, you can buy the deboned leg or the deboned thigh meat off the shelf. That's fantastic, and it always carries a little bit more flavor. You can also do this with chicken on the bone. So if you went to the supermarket and bought some thighs and legs, you can just chop them up and chuck them in. And you know, the old saying of the closer to the bone, the sweeter the meat is really true. Anything cooked on the bone is always more flavorful, so it will work like a bomb. But like I said, this dish is all about convenience. This is the kind of dish that you want to be able to cook when you come home and you have a few minutes to make dinner for your family, and it's really good. So, yeah. So there we go. So in the pot at the moment, we have the coconut milk, the palm sugar, galangal, lime leaf, chili, ginger, lemongrass, and a slow simmer going on. So everything is in there. And we're going to be adding the chicken in a few minutes. Now, when I say I love chicken, I really mean it. I'm a big fan of chicken on the braai, fried chicken, etc. And one of my ultimate all-time South African favorites must be peri-peri chicken. I'm a big peri-peri fan. And if you live in Cape Town, you've got two options really. You can go to Dia's or you can go to Vasco's for chicken. And they're both great. And I love them both for different reasons. That's chicken in Cape Town. But my favorite prego roll, my peri-peri prego roll in the whole world is in a small little yellow caravan in Nelspruit of all places. An old lady called Sao that makes just the best prego rolls ever. And it's incredible. But peri-peri is one of those things that we sort of, I always think, Peter, as a South African, we always think that we all, we're quarter Indian, quarter Portuguese, a little bit of Greek, a little bit of everything. And I think from the bits that we love about Portugal, peri-peri is the bit that we just took on. It's all South Africans love peri-peri. It's incredible.
It's actually very, very true. Yeah, Vasco's is definitely my favorite. Although I must admit, when we say the Portuguese origins, it's quite interesting. I was very disappointed once I was eating in a beautiful fish restaurant in Lisbon, and it's the most amazing seafood. And I really was missing some chili. I wanted that bite to go with the seafood, and so I asked the waiter, "Have you got any chili?" So, he said, I said, some chili sauce, something to go. He said, chili, no problem. And he came back with a bottle of Tabasco. And I was just so disappointed. I was really expecting, okay, I'm now going to get some fiery Portuguese peri-peri style sauce. And the bloke bought me a bottle of Tabasco. I was serious. It was a serious downer.
Look, it happens, and obviously, I think people always associate chili with being Portuguese, but chili is the origin of peri-peri is actually from the fight is between Angola and Mozambique, but it's an African chili that it was made from. So the origin of peri-peri really is actually African. It's not European, but it's interesting. The food history of food is interesting nonetheless. So like the Australians are also always about
a Portuguese colony. Portuguese colony.
100%. So the Aussies and the Kiwis always fight about who invented the pavlova. It's the same sort of thing. So our sauce is infusing beautifully, and I'm going to add the chicken to this now. All the chicken in at once, and I'm going to set the chicken board aside and just quickly rinse the knife. Great stuff. We're going to give it a quick stir, like that, and I'm going to cover up with a lid. And remember, we're on quite low temperature here, so we're going to leave that as is for a bit. We're going to take a peek at the rice quickly. That looks amazing. I'm going to give it a quick little stir through. There we go. I'm confident that the rice is good. I'm going to switch off the rice now, and I'm going to leave the lid on. And we're going to give it a little fluff up with a fork later on. So there's no rinsing. Jasmin rice is great because it sort of goes slightly sticky. It's slightly sweeter than other rice. It's amazing. So it really is good. We're gonna give that a whack just now. Right. So chicken is on, and our rice is ready. Great stuff. Is it 18 minutes if you're only cooking 2 portions of rice? It should be around the same time. So 18 minutes is the long stretch depending on your stove, but mine just went in about 16 minutes for 2 portions, for 4 portions. So it should be around the same time. Great stuff. Our next load is the vegetables that we're going to prep. So we've got our chicken curry in the pot. We've got rice going on. And while we've got the chicken in the pot, what's amazing about poaching like this is there's no extra fat. There's no butter, there's no cream, there's no oil, there's no olive oil. It's quite healthy, actually. And a lot of poached food, if you just get the poaching liquor flavored beautifully, you can poach a lot of things, and just have an amazing meal, and you feel a little bit healthier and lighter. I know, Pete, you love grilling. And the one flavor we're going to short here today is shorting that sort of caramelized flavor that you love eating on steaks and so on. However, we're going to make up for that flavor with everything else in the pot. We're going to make up with ginger and galangal and lime leaf and sweetness and acidity later on.
I think is a much maligned kind of cooking method. Everyone kind of thinks poaching. They think poached eggs, or they think of very bland and boring dishes. And I think it's a fantastic style of cooking. In fact, when we chatted yesterday, and I was looking at your recipe, it inspired me to poach a chicken last night. I put an entire chicken in a pot with water, some aromatics, ginger, chili, some star anise, and I filled it up with water and a cup of soy, and I just left it for 45 minutes to do its thing, and then shredded the chicken, took the chicken out, shredded it all up, and put it back into the broth with a cabbage and some carrots and vegetables, and we had the most amazing dinner last night, and then another huge bowl of steaming soup this afternoon. But you're right, all of those nutrients stay in the pot. You say all of that flavor is encapsulated, all the vitamins, all the minerals remain in the broth, in the sauce that you're eating, and it's actually a fantastic way of cooking.
I love it. One of my favorite poached chicken dishes ever. There's an Australian chef called Kylie Kwong, and I love following her recipes because they're very simple, and they really do quite. They're really nice to follow. But one of the things she's done is she takes a big pot and makes some master stock. And then takes a medium-sized chicken, dumps it in the pot, then turns the heat off, and wraps this whole pot in foil and cling film so it retains heat. And the chicken will actually poach to the bone in residual heat. And you can leave it overnight to just soak up all this master stock. But it's the most delicious chicken I think I've ever eaten in my life. Is Kylie Kwong's poached chicken, and not even in heat, but in residual heat. It's just delicious, incredible. I see there's a question about palm sugar not dissolving. Yep, don't stress. You've got some time in your hands, so while everything is poaching together, it'll dissolve a little bit more, and you can just stir your pan every now and then, and you'll see that it will dissolve slowly. Mine is pretty much almost gone, so don't stress about it too much.
I've had the distinct pleasure of actually eating at Kylie Kwong's restaurant, and yes, I've had that poached chicken. It's a thing. Behold, one of the things I did have, one of the most simplest dishes I've ever had. It was a side dish. It was just some steamed green beans that had just been tossed in dressed with a little bit of soy, some sesame seeds, and a touch of sesame oil, and just thin slithers of garlic. And it was it was almost the highlight of the meal. The simplicity of that squeaky green bean that just snapped in your mouth with just the most beautiful flavors. Her recipes and her approach to food is all about simplicity. It's all about perfection of technique and getting the ingredients at their ripest or at their freshest, and let the ingredients speak for themselves. I love her style of cooking, and it's much like the food you're doing tonight, and a lot of your own food, Bertus, is letting the ingredients. I think people fail to realize that half of cooking is the chopping, and you've always been a very great ambassador of local ingredients and local dishes, of all the stuff they do. And you've been one of the great champions of the South African restaurant scene in bringing back older recipes that we kind of figure it's stuff your gran made and it has no place in restaurants. And you've turned that around completely and really are showcasing some fantastic old stuff that's from our culinary heritage that now is finding its place in restaurants, and it's all about simplicity and it's all about ingredients.
100% being South African. We'll tell you about that in a second, but I just want you to take a look here quickly. This is simmering super slowly, and you can see the chicken has just changed color, sort of from pink to white. The chicken is still quite raw, but we're going to leave it like that for a little bit longer now, and it's barely coming to a boil. It's just a slow simmer. Now, while we're going to chat, we're going to talk about the cauliflower and the beans quickly. So cauliflower are beautiful just like that. And all we're going to do with these guys is we're going to cut them into slightly smaller florets. So this large one into quarters like that. That's great. You want them to be a little bit around the size of your chicken, to be honest with you. This sort of makes sense. The smaller ones you can leave whole, which are cool. And the green beans we're gonna slice them a little bit smaller as well. So we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for sort of bite-sized bits of cauliflower. We're gonna add the cauliflower and the green beans into the chicken at the same time. And after that, we're going to be toasting. Now, Pete, you know, when you're a young chef and you start off in a career in food, you sort of always think that you're from somewhere else. I'm from Europe, and especially I think in South Africa. Look, you know, I can't lie to you about it, dude. I'm a white South African. You know, my roots, you know, are definitely not in you know, I didn't originate in South Africa, but I was born in South Africa, and I'm a son of the soil. But you always think that you're European. You think that, oh, I must be French or German. And it took me a while to realize that I'm actually just from here, and I should celebrate where I'm from, and I should embrace South Africa. And it's been an incredible journey for me to do that. It's been amazing, and you're quite right. I think the food our oma's made, our gogo's made, are sometimes better than some of the food that we find in the fanciest of restaurants. And it's been quite a journey for me. And I think as many South Africans, as we travel the world, we realize, but hey, hang on, it's actually quite cool where we are. We've got an amazing lifestyle in South Africa. We've got amazing flavors here. We've got amazing produce here, incredible people, and we want to celebrate that through what we do. So becoming more focused on South African food has been incredible for me. I really have enjoyed it so far, and also with my team of chefs, so young chefs that we encourage to be more South African. You know, what did you eat when you were growing up? You know, tell us about that sticky chicken your mother made. I'm very interested in that. I'm more interested in the sticky chicken your mother made, than what I'm interested in sort of the next foam or the next gel or the next funny ingredient that all chefs want to cook with. And I find lots of joy in that space. However, green beans is the next thing. So you'll see these guys have got tips and backs. I never take the tips of green beans because they are delicious and they're quite pretty. I'm just going to take the backs off like that, just pinch them off with my fingers. And we're going to cut the beans in half. So as you're snipping them off, you can just sort of line them up ready to sort of go under the knife, just to be cut in half once. There we go. So we've had many successful bean harvests in our own garden, and we recently sort of started leaving our beans on the vine. So where we live in Stellenbosch, a community called Jamestown, we've got a nice big piece of land. And the one half of our land is where our house is on, and where we live, and then the other half of our land is our vegetable garden, and we spec the piglets and the chickens. So Speck has got like a bachelor's pad, to be honest with you. He's got a Lani pig. He's not one of these cheap meat pigs, you know. He's a serious guy.
I heard Marley tell me an interesting story about how you accidentally ended up with a massive crop of butternut.
Yeah,
thanks to
100%. So pigs have got obviously an interesting life in the wild. Everything knows that pigs are delicious. So we eat pigs, and everything else eat pigs as well. Sorry about that. There we go. And what he does is obviously he eats lots of vegetables. So Speck is vegetarian. We try to keep him away. Although pigs are omnivores, we're always so scared that by accident he's going to get a sort of a mouthful of pork sausage or a piece of bacon, which is just ethically and morally wrong, to be honest with you. So we try and keep him away from meat. But he eats lots of vegetables, so pumpkins, tomatoes, those sort of things. And what he does is through his he eats it, and wherever he does his business, we use all the pig stuff in the garden as sort of compost again. But obviously, as soon as those seeds have gone through Speck's channels, his digestive system, we end up with sprouting seeds. So Speck really plants tomatoes and pumpkins and watermelons in our garden the whole year long. And then myself and Sandy, the gardener, one day will feel sorry for all these little tomato plants in the middle of spring, and we'll sort of get them all together and we'll replant Speck's garden. So last year, Speck planted most of our tomatoes for us, which was actually quite cool, you know, without him even knowing that he's farming, but he is a farmer, you know, old Specky. So the chicken is sort of looking amazing.
Sorry, Baptist. I'm assuming I can see the flame there. That chicken really is on quite low, in case people think they should be cranking the heat up. It really, you are letting it cook quite a long time to slowly bubble away.
100%. And we're now going to add the vegetables. Now remember, these vegetables will really take a few minutes to steam through, so it's not very long at all. And while that's happening, we're going to jump onto the cucumber pickle that we're going to make. Now, the cauliflower's in, and the beans, we're just going to cut them in half. So one shot, and we're going to add that in as well.
Are there other vegetables you could add to that if you were keen?
Definitely, you could add broccoli, you could add sort of peas, like whatever you would like. Just keep in mind that if the vegetable cooks a little bit longer, add it a bit earlier. So you could even use this recipe, this base sauce, and cook it with, instead of chicken, we use pumpkin. Quite often, myself and Maddie we make a pumpkin curry, and it's really good. So you could just play with vegetables and add them in. I wouldn't add soft vegetables with lots of moisture like tomato or mushrooms, but something with a bit of integrity would be great. Now let's talk about this little pickle, because this is going to be like quite a cool thing and a lot of flavor. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our small pan that we have here, and we're going to toast cashew nuts and sesame seeds. There we go. And we're going to do a dry pan, not a wet pan. And we're going to get it onto sort of moderate heat. So not too hot to start off with. And we're not going to toast for a very, very long time, because nuts and seeds are like super full of oils and they like to burn very quickly. So we're going to get a light toast on it, and we're going to leave it in the pan just to cool down for a bit. Another trick that you can do, which we discovered recently, especially with macadamia nuts, is the best way to toast macadamia nuts. And we do it at our wine bar, Spick and Burner, is we deep fry them. So the nuts go into a deep fryer for like 30 seconds. They toast like evenly everywhere. And then we toss them through a bit of spices. So we really roast the nuts to order. But it's one of my young chefs one day said to me, hey man, I think we've got to deep fry nuts. It actually just roasts better. And I thought it was talking nonsense, and we did it really well. So, you learn things along the way as you go. And that was that. So we've got cashew nuts here, which are fantastic, really full of protein, goodness. We're going to add that to our pan at moderate heat. And we're going to add the sesame as well. This is black and white sesame at the same time. And we're just going to move them.
My problem with roasting nuts in the oven is I always forget about them, because the oven's closed, and you remember they're in there when the smoke starts billowing out of the oven. Oh damn, they've just burnt another tray. But we actually had a young student who did that. We had pine nuts, and so the student put a whole tray of pine nuts in, and it burnt completely. And our pine nuts are, I don't know, what are they now? About 400 Rand a kilo, if not more. And we said, but you can't. He said, no, don't worry, chef, it's okay. There's a whole bag of them in the pantry. And I wanted to throttle the bastard who was just burning thousands of rands of nuts.
Pete, look, look, Pete, I still burn things, and I still cut myself, and I always laugh because, to be honest with you, chefs burn stuff more than what people think they do. It's just part of what we do. So the cucumber is the next one. We're going to take the cucumber as it is whole, and we're just going to peel it from top to bottom just to get rid of the skin.
Yeah, no, I think.
Now, Pete, interestingly enough, cucumber.
Is there a reason you're not using the skin, Bertus?
Yeah, so the skin can be a little bit green sometimes, Pete, a little bit astringent, I think. And you can, amazingly, cucumbers originates from India. And in India, they ripen the cucumber. So this is an English cucumber that's sort of still actually quite green. I grow my own cucumbers in the garden as well. And if you leave them on their vines and they become a little bit yellow, they just deepen in flavor like you can't believe. It's really incredible. But if you ever can do that, then please do leave your cucumber on the vines for a bit and they'd go riper. But in this case, the skin's a little bit green, a little bit tough, a little bit chewy. So we'll take that off. We're going to take a look at this quickly. You can see how the nuts are toasting. I'm really happy with that. It smells delicious. I'm going to switch off the heat and leave it in the pan just to finish on its own.
And also, I find if you're making any kind of pickle with cucumber, if you keep the skins on as well.
Our next job is going to be to cut the cucumber. So again, yeah, Pete?
I was saying, I also find that especially if you're making pickle with cucumber, you take the skins off, then you don't get that kind of that horrible brownie. It doesn't overnight. It tends to turn that very brown-looking, unpleasant color when you leave the skins on. Where at least if you peeled it, then it remains nice and vibrant.
Sure. We're going to quickly take a look into the rice pot, and if you take a peek in there, the rice is still nice and hot, and we're just going to fluff it up with a fork like that, just for a little bit. Nice. It looks like the perfect edge of sticky. It's still sort of loose, but sticks together. That's exactly what you wanted. And it's going to stay warm until we're ready to eat. Now for the slicing of the cucumber. Now, what you could do if you wanted to is you could do this like that. very quickly, and I can do it while I'm looking at you. So very, very fast. But you're going to lose a finger unless you practice. But practicing is quite cool. So I'm going to suggest we go slower. Okay. So we're going to go just thin slices with a sharp knife all the way through. And if you ever slice things, you can just check. I use my fingers as a guard. So it's, just like that. And it's a really, really like an easy way of doing it. No chef was born, to be honest with you, being able to do this. Most chefs cut themselves a lot, and then they learned how to use a knife properly. So there's no shame in that.
Just to stop you, I know you think you're now going slowly, but you're still going faster than most people cut at home.
That's cool. Well, I'll slow it down.
Yeah. And also,
I love it.
It's a beautiful thing to slice. And you'll find that Bertus's slices are all exact same thickness as well. That's the most frustrating thing for those of you at home who are trying to follow at the same speed.
we're gonna take these guys and pop them into a bowl.
It only takes 20 years to learn how to cook that well, to cut that well.
Peachy, to be honest with you, if I think of my career and the things it took me to learn, so I think I've been in kitchen sort of full time about 25 years or whatever now, which is quite a stretch. But for the first 10 years, it was all about just learning how to basically cook. The next few years was about how to become a good cook, and then it was about how to become a good cook and a half decent businessman, I suppose, along the way. So our work is never finished. There's always new things to learn.
Well, I have to say that same with you with the soup kitchen. I've been involved with Wynand du Plessis at Extreme Soupathon in Mowbray, and it's humbling to have to go back to stand at a bench with 10 bags of carrots and just stand there and do nothing all day. But you have one task, is to get through those 10 bags of carrots by the time 4 o'clock comes so you can punch out. It's a very humbling experience having to go back to my roots, just peeling for a 9-hour shift and nothing else.
I'm taking a look into this chicken pot now, and it really smells delicious, and I'm going to feel the beans. They're just cooked. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my chicken off now. I'm confident that it's cooked. If you're not confident, leave it to go for a little bit longer. We'll just leave it to rest for a bit, and we're going to come back. We're going to finish it with some other flavors shortly. We're now going to just look at this little cucumber pickle. So the cucumbers have been sliced. It really is quite lacquer and simple. We've now got spring onions on our hands. Now, I mean, it's just an amazing ingredient. Lots of fresh dishes. It really is quite lacquer, but we've got to make sure they're clean properly. So we've got a whole bunch for 4 people. I wouldn't use a whole bunch. I would use 3 or 4. But just peel off the outer layer of the spring onions. That's like step 1. Spring onions and rice are actually 2 ingredients that are quite dangerous. And you want to say, but why are they dangerous? So rice loves to grow a little bit of salmonella, to be honest with you, if it's not looked after properly. So it's important for you to cook rice, eat it immediately. Whatever you don't eat today, you can freeze it easily. But if you ever leave rice outside overnight, rice just likes to make people sick. And spring onions, funny enough, in between their layers, they're the same. So we always make sure that we wash them properly. It's very, very important. So we peel off the outer layers, and we're going to give it a quick rinse, and then we'll get back into them.
Yeah, I think most people don't realize when they get food poisoning or food infection from dodgy takeaways from Indian or Chinese restaurants, it's more likely to be the rice than it is the actual curries or the dishes themselves.
Sure, but you know what? The sad thing is, Pete, we all love to live dangerously. We all just live for that last garage pie at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you walk into the Chinese takeaway and you just know that there's going to be an issue tomorrow, but you're still brave and you're still there. It's all about that dangerous lifestyle we all have, man. Yeah. So the spring onions are peeled back and they're clean. We're going to give them a quick rinse. There we go. And then just onto our board. I'm going to line them up nicely. And this is quite a cool one. So I'm using the same knife for everything tonight. So I've used the same knife to cut chicken, cut vegetables, clean, cut cucumber, everything. So it just shows you if you invest in one great knife for your kitchen, you can do many tasks with it, and that's cool. So we're going to take this. I'm just going to slice the spring onions nice and fine. And this is like a little wrist movement. This is not.
Remember, folks, keep sending us your questions. We want to keep this as interactive as possible. Anything you want to know. This is a beautiful recipe, and I think that Bertus is working at a very measured pace. You can see he's an experienced, not only chef, but also demonstrator. Some chefs have a tendency to just moor it ahead.
So this is
and won't keep up. But so don't forget questions if you need to anything you need further explanation.
When we do this, it's not a chopping job, so we don't want to hear that. This is really a swinging job. So like with your wrist, you just move it slowly, and it's more a slicing job than a chopping job. So we slice the spring onions. So we treat spring onions and chives very similarly. Chives will be a lot finer than this.
I think always important, this is why people fail to realize that the importance of a sharp knife. With beautiful vegetable like this, you end up tearing and bruising things like chives or spring onions if you don't have a lovely sharp knife the whole time.
Oh, Pete, I've got a reputation for being quite a difficult chef, to be honest with you. And one of the things that gets me difficult is blunt knives.
Yeah.
I just, it's for me, a sharp knife should be a chef's pride. You look after your knives and you have sharp ones, and that's how you do your job. It's like when you're you can't dig a hole without a pickaxe. That's the tool of our trade.
Look, I'm the same. I always travel with knives. I have a knife roll in the boot of my car, always, because you always end up someone's house and you're always the one who ends up in the kitchen cooking for all the when you hang out with loads of non-industry people, you always get roped in the kitchen. And it's always amazing me how every household will have the sharp knife. And it was sharp when they bought it. It's been sitting in a drawer for 5 years, and you couldn't make a hole in a baby's head with the thing. And now you have to cook for 10 people. So I always travel with knives. Even when I fly, there's always knives in my suitcase. We're going to crash and end up on an island somewhere, and at least I'll have knives.
If I can let you into like a little secret of the industry, as chefs or as a chef, I'm actually quite antisocial because I spend most of my time in kitchens and with people that understand the culture that I work in. And when I end up in other people's homes, I just struggle sometimes. So I'll just say to Madly, I'm going to go to the kitchen, and then I'll offer to cook for the host. I'll say, then I'll get out of the company. So I'm just going to go make a salad for you guys, or just whatever. And it's cool. I can go hide in my kitchen again, and I'm quite happy. It's my secret weapon is kitchens, to be honest.
I'm exactly the same. I'm happy to stand out my own by the bribe, provided someone brings me beer. I'm quite happy not to get involved. I agree with you completely, Bertus.
100%. So we have cucumber and spring onion, and now we've got mint. And mint is an amazing ingredient in Asian and sort of Eastern cooking. And we're going to just take the mint and we're going to rip off little bits of mint. There's quite a bit of mint here. We're not going to use all of it. So we're going to just add as much of it as we need. I would say that we need about a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons worth of ripped mint. Now, we grow mint in our garden. If you ever can, I suggest you plant some. We grow in the height of sort of spring and summer. We grow 4 or 5 different varieties of mint, and they all sort of taste different. And if you plant mint once, it just goes, and it'll usually just see through. I think our current mint patch is probably about 4 years old, and it just keeps on going. It comes back, it dies off in winter, comes back in summer, and it's an amazing ingredient to just have in your garden. If anybody wants to get into gardening at your home, the best thing you could probably do is just plant a little bit of basil, a little bit of mint, a little bit of chives, like those sort of things, tarragon if you can get it, and you'll actually have a little herb garden that'll just be amazing to work from. So that should be about enough mint. I've got a little bit left.
And I also think rosemary is another good one. Rosemary is a lot like mint, that once it takes hold in your garden, you'll have a massive bush forever. As long as you look after it and it gets water regularly, it's one of those herbs you will always find it useful.
Yeah, it's amazing. So this guy is called a little bit of vinegar. Now, what we're going to do is, because the dish is quite sweet, we're not going to balance our pickle with more sugar. We're going to use it as a base of acidity to help us refresh the dish, because it's quite rich with all the coconut as well. So we're going to take our rice vinegar, and we're going to just add that straight onto the cucumber, and we're going to use about...
We have a quick question, and that's I think it was, if we don't have spring onions, could you use regular onions? for this pickle?
You could, what would work well is just use a white onion and slice it really thin, then add that in. That'll be. It's a bit sharper than spring onions. Spring onions is a little bit more elegant and not as sharp. But a white onion would do. I wouldn't do red onion because it'll sort of stain everything else in the dish. But a bit of white onion is great. And we're now just going to use like a little bit of salt. I would say about a teaspoon's worth of salt. And we're going to get stuck in with our fingers, and we're going to massage all of that together. So vinegar, cucumber, mint, spring onion, salt.
We've got a quick question. We've got a quick question. Sorry about this from Alexia. It says, is the trick with chicken not drying out to cook it at a low heat?
100%. So what would happen is if we cook it very, very quickly at high heat, it'll just lose all its moisture and go tough quite quickly. But we let it go slowly. We don't shock the proteins. We let it go as slow as possible so it stays as moist as possible. If you think of it like a great butter chicken, a butter chicken is also made with breast, but it's cooked very slowly. And if you get like a tough butter chicken, the guy just cooked it too quickly. By the way, that's delicious. So have a taste. I think it's really good. It's salty and it's acidic. It's yummy. So nice and slowly just to keep everything fresh. So we're now going to open up.
I think it's also important that as you when the chicken is done, to switch it off and just let it rest in the pot. That also helps for the chicken to relax and soak up a lot more of those flavors. It also goes a great way to just finishing the cooking and letting the flavors impart into the rest of the chicken.
100%. And we've now got this wonderful sort of nutty mixture of cashew and sesame we're going to add into that. And we're going to give that a mix through. Yeah. And this can even serve as like a little salad, So if you have a braai or whatever and you want to make something quick, this is a really cool little salad to serve with anything really, not just with a dish like this. Sure. That smells delicious. It's always good when the recipes work, Pete, because they could not work and it could be terrible. You know what I'm saying?
Well, also we always have a problem with what chefs are like is they send in a recipe and then they kind of divert from what that recipe is, and everyone's going, hold on, you didn't put the cashews in. Where are the spring onions? Because chefs they once they're in the zone and start cooking, often forget what it is they wrote down in the first place.
Oh, cool. So the next they talk about is lime, and it's also a little bit of fish sauce, of course. Now, lime is great. Like I said, it's that tropical sort of acidity that you don't get out of lemon, although I love lemon. And then fish sauce is that beautiful fermented sort of fish sauce, and it's salty and it's delicious. So what I'm going to do is not in the recipe, but I'm going to take one lime and I've got a microplane, and I'm going to just give the dish like a tiny bit of zest if you wanted to. It's not necessary, but it just sort of brings those limey flavors to the forefront a bit more. I'm going to take these limes and cut them in half.
If you didn't, Bertus, if you didn't have a fancy microplane, what would you use?
Oh, just a normal grater. The fine side of a grater is cool, man. And if you wanted to, if you don't have a grater, you can just take a peeler and you can peel a piece of zest off and add it in there just also to infuse. We're just looking for really, yeah. We've got these limes, and I've got one of these guys that I'm not into like egg separators and garlic crushers and all sort of kitchen stuff, but this is great. So this is just to help us juice, and especially if you do cocktails, then you can. This is great. So we're just going to juice both these limes.
An interesting fact, Bertus, do you know what that piece of equipment that you're using is called?
No, Pete.
It's called a reamer. Yeah.
Cool.
Its official name is a reamer.
Well, it's amazing, huh? But it works like a bomb. And if you don't have one, then the squeeze much out with your fingers is also okay.
It's a great piece of equipment. It's better than all of those little attachments and the bits and pieces. Just to get it in there and it gets all the juice out. It's perfect.
And then the last one is the fish sauce. So you're going to open this guy up. We're going to add all the fish sauce into this dish.
Cool. It's again, tell us a little bit more about that. Tell us more about the fish sauce as an ingredient. I know most people who've not used it before are going to open that packet up, smell it, and go, "Ugh, I'm not putting this in my food."
So, Pete, it actually originates as far back as Roman times. To be honest with you, the Romans used to do sort of fermented fish sauces, and whether it traveled to the east, sort of down the Silk Road, or whether it's probably the same conversation as pasta. Who invented the noodle? The Italians or the Chinese? Nobody would ever know. But the most famous use of fish sauce now is obviously in Thai cooking. And it really is a fermented fish sauce. It's a replacement for salt in Thai cuisine, and you can eat it as it is. It adds a lot of dishes. So even at home, we'll sometimes do a little bit of steamed rice with a stir fry, but I'll add a bit of fish sauce just to season my rice. If you smell it as it is, like I said, quite putrid and quite strong. However, once it's in a dish and once it's used as sort of seasoning to season the dish, it sort of dissipates and it forms this perfect harmony. The salt it forms a perfect harmony with sort of sweet and acidic and spicy. It's really cool. I'm going to quickly have a taste of this broth.
I had a
Sure,
I had a dish in Bangkok on the side of one of these street vendor things, and it was these guys were cutting up the slices of green mango, and they put it into a little packet, and all they added was a chili paste and fish sauce, and then you were just mixing it up, and it was one of the most things I've ever eaten, because you had this lovely sweet mango, and then all of a sudden this saltiness, and then this fiery chili, and the only way to get rid of the fiery chili was to have another piece of mango. And then you got more of the saltiness, then more of the chili, and it was like this. It kept going on and on and on. It was the most beautiful thing to eat.
And Peter, I often think that people misunderstand the use of salt or saltiness in food. So salt is there to enhance natural flavor, and you can think that steak with salt, the one without salt will be quite bland, and then the one with flavor. Salt is just there to enhance flavor. So in my mind, seasoning is salt, pepper, and lemon, like those, or acidity. Those three things season. But flavoring means that we're going to change the natural flavor of something. So we take a piece of fish, add curry powder, and now the fish tastes like fish and curry powder. The flavors should complement each other. So seasoning is really important in sort of basic cooking at home, that you just make sure that you elevate those natural flavors as much as possible. And it really does work like a bomb. So there we go. Now, the one thing that we did forget today, and it's okay to forget these things, was we forgot to pack the coriander, and like I said, chefs sometimes forget things as well. So we picked up some, and I think they sent a message out earlier that you pick up some. We got some from the shop, and we also grow some coriander in our garden, and we're going to use this as a little garnish. But I'm going to take a little bit of coriander and also chop it into the dish. Now, the cool thing about coriander is that coriander stalks, these little fine stalks, carry more flavor than the actual leaf. And many times people just pick off the leaves and want to throw the stalks away, but not with coriander. Keep the stalks and just want to take a knife and run it through just quite broadly.
Sorry, we had a question earlier.
I can add that to the.
Would lemons be a reasonable substitute for limes?
Lemons would give you the acidity, but not the right flavor. And I often find, especially with Asian food, that lemon doesn't quite have the correct flavor. So lemon would give you the acidity, but not that fruity tropical acidity that you're looking for in a dish like this. So it would be an acceptable substitute, but it won't be perfect. And also be careful of sort of lime cordials, so sort of that fake lime juice. It isn't great, and you can get it, but in cooking it's not fantastic. I think a fresh lime is just the business.
I think
great stuff.
If you want to
shall we put this thing together?
I think so. I think if you want to know the difference between lemon and lime, is take 2 margaritas, one made with lemon juice and one made with lime juice, and you can tell the difference between one is perfect balance, got acidity, but it isn't round and it isn't sweet. Right, I think so Peter, are we there? Look, I think before we get cracking with actually plating up, I think we all need to remember that those of you who are cooking along, you can join us in 2 weeks' time. We have a fantastic chef up who most of you may or may not know. And if you don't know who Jenny Morris is, you must have been living either in a cave or under a rock for the last couple of years. But if you want to join us in 2 weeks' time, remember, you need to book to cook. So go to web tickets where you can buy a ticket to join us. and the ingredients will arrive on your doorstep. You can join us on YouTube and watch if you like, but again, you're not going to win any fabulous prizes, and you're certainly not going to get that beautiful meal. I'm very envious of the fact that I'm not going to have any that beautiful chicken that Bertus is making. But there you go. That's the curse of my job, unfortunately. But those of you who are watching, you don't get to taste that either. So Bertus, tell us how are you going to finish off the dish?
We're going to just serve a bowl of rice in the middle of the table. I'm one of those people that would like to soak up as much goodness as I can with rice. And I just want you to take a look at that. Sort of that jasmine rice is just cool, man. Like it still sort of drops. It's slightly sticky like it should be, but it's not clumpy. Here we go. Nice. That looks delicious. Now, to dish up a bowl of a yummy chicken. Now this is almost brothy, which is really cool. So it means that you can serve a lot of the juice and soak up the juice with rice. Lots of vegetables. Here we go. And I want to serve this, and you can just watch out for those little bits of lemongrass and galangal. I want to serve this with like a little bit of a cucumber pickle on top of it, just to refresh the dish as you go. Here we go. And we're going to finish it with a tiny bit of coriander. This is yummy to get these fresh little bits of leaf. And as South Africans, we love coriander. So in America...
I'm leaning forward as if I'm trying to look at the dish. It looks so bloody lovely, and I forget that it's not going to any tastier if I lean. Oh, look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous. So remember, folks, if you want to win a prize for your Instagram photograph, you have to post it online with the hashtag #LiveCookChannel. We will choose a photograph during the week, and you will be informed and get a fantastic prize. We'll also have our lucky prize winner up in a moment. But before we crack on with any of that, we have another word from one of our food supporters, our very, very important people who help us bring you these programs, and that's the RCL Food Partners. One of the fantastic and probably largest food production companies in Africa, and they are all about food solutions for various food outlets, food organizations, and the consumer in the street. Their products are as varied as you can imagine, from fresh produce to frozen goods, from mayonnaises to pies to scones, you name it. And they can back that up with service of knowledge of management systems. They really are the complete package.
Hi, I'm Brad Kavanagh, head chef at RCL Foods based in Durban. I have over 25 years experience, and over the years have worked with some amazing products, people and interesting environments, from contract catering, hotels, restaurants, working overseas, culinary lecturer, before moving into corporate in 2005. Never before have we experienced tough times as we are experiencing in our industry at present. At RCL Foods, we're all about partnerships. And during this lockdown, we've put our heads together to find ways to help you, our hospitality partners. Over the next couple of months, we'll be releasing a series of videos from our kitchen. No frills, just useful and practical tips from our range of products to assist you in reigniting your business. From mid-July, you'll be able to access our video channel via our RCL Foods website under our Food Partners page. We hope you find these videos useful on your journey to rebuilding your business. Keep well, be safe.
Fantastic. Well, Bertus, thank you very much. I think folks remember that if you want to win some prizes, you must give us your opinion of Bertus's dishes. Here is your chance to judge the chef and tell us what you think. And please also tell us what you think of your experience this evening. And remember to book to cook in 2 weeks' time to join our next chef, Bertus.
Sure. And before you go, thank you for joining us. It was really cool to cook with you. It was amazing. But I would like to introduce you to a few of my family members, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the computer from here and I'm going to walk around. I'm going to show you what madness we live in this house, because not many people realize what happens here. But I'm going to introduce you to Spek the pig, who's a big part of our family. Kom, Spekkie, kom. Kom, Spekkels. Hierso. So, where is he? Here we go. Money, where's the pig? Oh, here we go. There we go. There's the pig. So that is. So you saw Spek. There's Gwynna, the famous boxer. That's the old dog. The whole lot. So anyway, that is the madness we get to live in every day in our little farm in Jamestown. I hope you have an amazing evening. We'll see you soon.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bertus. So remember, folks, I hope you've enjoyed yourself this evening. And before we look forward to joining us again in 2 weeks' time with Chef Janie Morris. You can book on web tickets if you want us to book to cook. But we do end our this evening on a more somber note. We were informed later today excuse me, that a good friend of Live Cook Channel and the industry in general passed away this evening, Peter de Bruin. And we send condolences to his family and wish them well. Okay. Lucky ticket winner, Maria, thank you. Sorry, we heard distressing news that Peter de Bruin passed away earlier this afternoon. A fantastic restaurateur, a giant of a man in the business. Frank Dongero's partner in all things fabulous in Noordhoek Food Barn and the Noordhoek Centre. And we're sad to see a stalwart of the restaurant industry leave so soon. We wish our prayers and our thoughts are with Kim, with me, and with Danny. Pete, you're a giant of a man. You will be missed. Thank you, folks. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you again soon. Good night.
Who lit the fire?